Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, and coming up on today's show, we're going to look at the Raiders OTA news from practice today that I think a lot of y'all want to know. Now, obviously, I'm not there in the building. I wasn't at practice, but just from following a lot of the reports, being able to reach out to a few people that were there, have some conversations, I'm going to talk about all that, and then at the end of today's show, we're also going to discuss the coaches' notes from Patrick Graham, Luke Getsy, Tom McMahon, who's the Raiders special teams coordinator, because they had some interesting things to say. Before, though, there was a little bit of rumor, speculation going out, and anytime something happens around Davante Adams, the entire NFL world listens. So he did not practice today, and it was originally reported by Vincent Bonsignor that he was not at, OTAs at all. So when that happened, everyone and their brother starts running with the story of, oh no, Davante, he's angry. You know how the NFL media is. Everybody thinks that the Raiders want to trade Adams. Everybody thinks that Davante wants to be traded. So when that came out, people were like, oh man, here we go again. Bottom line is this. Even though he did not practice, he was still at the facility today. So let's just stop the trade rumors. If you see any Davante Adams trade rumors because he did not participate in OTAs, send it to me. I'm going to do some shows around him, and we're going to have some fun with it. But, here's the bottom line. This is why you subscribe, because I am telling you right now, from doing this as long as I have, from y'all probably watching this show and just being on social media, there is going to be somebody tomorrow, I'll know who it is, that's going to say Davante Adams trade rumors. They're going to get circulating again. And if you see it, send it to me. I'm going to make a video on it. He ain't getting traded. He has said multiple times he wants to stay. Antonio Pierce has said it. Telesco, I don't know how many other ways we could do it. But this is why you subscribe. The OTA news and get the good rumors, because there is such thing as good rumors. Let's talk about some other notes that I got today. Aiden O'Connell was, I was told, very accurate today. Now, again, you got a fun little quarterback competition, and it's going to be a really fun QB room because Aiden is, I don't want to say more locked in than Gardner based on what I was told, but Gardner definitely has that a little bit more laid-back persona, kind of go with the wind, which it really shouldn't surprise anybody. The good news is, though, that with Minshew and Aiden, both guys, from what I understood, looked pretty damn good today. Both guys were able to, hit the nets pretty well. Both showed good accuracy. And again, Luke Getsy wants a quarterback that take care of the football. Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell, it's going to be one fun quarterback battle. Also, I got some updates here on Christian Wilkins, and what somebody messaged me, dude's the real deal. Which, again, if you're going to go out and spend all the money that you did on Wilkins, he finally gets to work with the interior guys on the defensive line. I expect big, big things from Wilkins, no doubt about it. But just seeing him out there, Crosby, he was a leader today. He led all the stretches. Those two guys on your interior is going to strike a lot of fear on defense. Another thing that I thought was very interesting was Adam Butler was working with the ones today. So when I say working with the ones, there's some times where the starters are out there, but you're mixing and matching. There was a time where predominantly all the Raiders starters were on the field from a practice standpoint, and it was Max Crosby, Christian Wilkins, Adam Butler, Malcolm Kuntz. I think most Raider fans would say that's the ones on the defensive line. Max, Christian, Malcolm. So the fact that Adam Butler was working with the ones, not shocked by it. I did want to throw that in there. Other thing was Michael Mayer. He was making some pretty big plays today. Also was speaking to the media, and I loved what Michael was saying just because, you don't really get to hear a lot, especially last year, previous years with McDaniels. Mayer, I don't know if he meant to do it. He definitely threw a few jabs at McDaniels, just being the offense is a lot easier to understand. We're allowed to have fun this year. When you hear those two things, he didn't say anything about McDaniels. Whoever also was chanting, fire McDaniels in the live chat today was hilarious. But, you could see on his facial expressions that he anticipates to be used a lot. He's excited to play with Getsy. He was getting a lot of work. They were moving him all over the football field today. But also it was the understanding of, it's a lot easier in year two. It's also a lot easier not having Josh McDaniels around. Coming up, we're going to get into more Raiders OTA news from today that I think that the nation would want to hear. And we got a lot more updates to get into. In fact, some good, some not so good. Some injuries on the offensive line, which I don't have an update on them yet. Still working on them, but just hoping that, it's nothing too serious. There's nothing really to rush because Well, it is May after all. I'll tell you what those injuries were in just a second. Shout out to today's sponsor, PrizePicks, and there's a hell of a basketball game on tonight. You got the Celtics, Pacers. Can't wait to get that one underway. We also are going to be live here at Chat Sports. Shout out to Allie Barefoot. She's going to be covering that game. So if anybody wants to choose more or less with foot tonight, you can do so with our awesome sponsor, PrizePicks. PrizePicks has fun games for the NBA playoffs, and I want you guys to play the Purple Stars because look for select players on the board with star icons. Win a lineup that includes one or more star players and get a 10% boost on your winnings if that lineup is perfect. So the lineup that I have here tonight for this game, I'm going to go with more with Jason Tatum on 10 rebounds, 3 straight games with at least 10 rebounds. Tyrese Halliburton has yet to score 19.5 points against the Celtics this season, so I took the less there. And then Drew Holiday, give me 4.5 assists. I anticipate that the Celtics are going to win this basketball game in kind of, I don't want to say convincing fashion. They're clearly the better team, and if the New York Knicks don't get hurt, the Pacers are probably not even in this situation. Hell, you might even be able to say the same thing about Jimmy Butler and the Heat. But to me, Holiday's going to get 4.5 assists. I'm rolling with this, and if you want to roll with this one as well, you can find that link. It's going to be available for you guys down in the comments, down in the description. PrizePicks is simple. You just pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get started now if you haven't already at prizepicks.com/CLNS and get a first-time deposit match of $100. prizepicks.com/CLNS. Pick more, pick less. It's really that easy. All right, coming up here next, let's get into some more OTA news from today. And I got one notification today from one of my buddies, and he was like, dude, I'm telling you right now, Dylan Laube is him. And I'm excited, and I know that the nation is excited too. He was making a lot of things happen today. And there were people throwing out the comps of, Christian McCaffrey, which he wears 23, and he's a white running back. Like, that's the connection there. As much as excited as I am for Laube, he's not Christian McCaffrey. You can already see it. He's not the athlete, but then again, not many people are McCaffrey. What I am curious to see, though, is all the different ways that they end up using him because he was getting some work out of the backfield today. Zamir White did not practice, but, clearly they are going to use him at special teams, clearly going to use him out of the backfield as well. Laube is a very, very sneaky name to consider in a PPR fantasy football league that's very, very deep. Also, some updates here. This one's from Tashawn Reed, and it said that the Raiders had 78 players practicing today for day 2 of OTAs. So, again, day 2 means, think about it. Yesterday was supposed to be the first day. Nobody practiced. So, today it's considered day 2. Realistically, it's day 1. Those who were not participating, Zamir White, Amir Abdullah, shout out to Dean, we'll bang to that here in a second, Michael Gallup, Davante Adams, Jalen Guyton, Tulu Griffin, Kolton Miller, Ron Stone, Matthew Butler, Nesta Jade Silvera, Darian Butler, and Jack Jones. So 12 players not practicing. Remember, 90 players overall on the roster. What's important about this one, though, is Kolton Miller. So Kolton Miller was working on the sidelines today, which usually means that he's dealing with something. Again, star player was there, unable to practice, but working on the sidelines means that he's battling at least some minor of an injury, which I don't love. Again, it's probably, he's a veteran, 29, 30 years old. They don't really want to rush him. They don't want to do anything all that wild. But the fact that he did battle injuries last season, and then the Raiders also made it a point right after the NFL draft to go out and get Andres Pete, who's going to predominantly play on the left side. One of the things that I am going to be monitoring this offseason is the Kolton Miller injury. How healthy is he? Because, again, when you get older and older and older and you're just that big of a human being, things can start to add up a little bit. Another injury update that we actually just got here right before that we went live, Jackson Powers Johnson. So he left practice early. I have no update whatsoever on what JPJ's injury is, what exactly happened, or why he did leave early. Maybe he didn't leave early. I don't know. Maybe he pulled we're talking about the Celtics, a Paul Pierce, and he shit his pants on practice. I don't have the answer. But what I am going to say is, if this is injury related, this is a red flag for me. And the only reason why I say that is because the only reason that JPJ did not go in round 1 was because a lot of NFL teams were afraid of the injury. So if it's a concussion, if it's something with the head, that's going to scare the absolute freaking hell out of me. Outside of that, though, I still want to see what happens because great player, but everybody that's watching the show right now or anybody that watches Oregon or knows anything about him is the biggest red flag was the injuries. And the fact that he left today early, that does scare me quite a bit. Coming up next here, we got some coaches' notes that from Patrick Graham, Luke Getsy, and again, Tom McMahon, and they spoke to the media right before practice. And if you guys want to see everything that they talked about, that's why you guys should follow me on Instagram, on Twitter, at Mitchell Renz 365. I put all this stuff kind of out there. But, like, what you're going to see here is just the notes that I thought were the most important from today. Patrick Graham believes that Tyree Wilson playing inside was important for his development. Talked about how it's just like a shorter, it's shorter distance from you to the defender, where if you're an edge, there's a lot more time between what your hands are going to do, and they moved him inside to help him with his hands, his footwork, his get off a little bit easier. And I've seen some people say that they still think that he's only going to play defensive end. I actually totally disagree with that. I think that the Raiders are going to continue to use him as an edge, as a defensive tackle, move him inside and outside. But, like, right now, I was anticipating that Wilson was going to have that opportunity to be the defensive tackle one, which it's still early. It's freaking May. But Adam Butler did get the reps today at number 1 for DT. Let's continue to talk about Christian Wilkins here. Patrick Graham was super excited when he was talking about him, as he should be. He hasn't had a defensive tackle like Wilkins literally ever, as long as he's been a member of the Raiders here. Had some good ones when he was with the Giants. But Wilkins is going to require a lot of double teams, and really just talked about how that's going to open up things for a lot of other players. I think my favorite note from PG was one on Malcolm Kuntz. And, you know, when you hear these coaches talk, a lot of times it's coaches speak, and I love the fact that Tom McMahon was freaking fired up today. Luke Getsy was the only one where I was like, he's a little bit more reserved. But, like, PG said that Kuntz is out here taking that next step, coaching guys up. And when you see a young player like Malcolm coaching guys up, PG said it made him giddy. Didn't even know if he could, say giddy out loud. You got to watch Patrick Graham because, he's laughing internally that he's even talking about this. But to me, the fact that he brought it up and the fact that he's talking about Malcolm taking that next step, I do think for a lot of the people out there that want the Raiders to extend Malcolm, this is one of those little things that I think could go a really long way. Getsy, he started talking about Brock Bowers and all the ways that they're going to use him. He was asked a question, kind of went around how the Raiders are going to use Bowers, and then the next person came in, asked kind of the exact same thing. And Getsy was just like, I'm excited to use him. They're going to use him in a lot of different areas on the field. Basically said that he was the best player in the SEC for multiple seasons, which, again, I think people look at Bowers and just say tight end. He's an athlete. He's a secret weapon, and I'm excited to see what the Raiders do with him. Also, Getsy was talking about Thayer Munford and that he was talented enough to play both sides of the offensive line, which will be something that I continue to monitor just because, Antonio Pierce said that Thayer Munford is going to be playing on the right side and really made it seem like this team is set on him playing right side and right side only, specifically because they also said Andres Pete's going to be playing on that left side, and I've said that Cody Whitehair's going to be the dude on the interior. But the fact that they think he can play both sides, if this Kolton Miller injury does linger, definitely watch out there and where they decide to use him. Next thing is Luke Getsy really wants a quarterback who protects the football. Somebody asked, what are the traits that you're looking for in your starting quarterback? And Getsy kind of fired back quickly and was like, I'm not really going to look at traits, which I do think helps both Aiden and Gardner because neither of those quarterbacks have a lot of traits that scream you can be a starting quarterback in the NFL. But if you can go out there and mentally prepare yourself for the good competition and hold on to the football, protect the ball, that's how this team's going to win games. You're not going to win games because of Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. You're not going to. You will lose games, though, because of those two guys. And if they take care of the ball, well, then maybe you will win some games because of them. All right, so how about this? If Getsy's going to say that he wants a QB that protects the ball, out of the two names that you see up here on screen, who's better at it? Who do you have more confidence in to protect the football? Do you have confidence in Gardner Minshew? Type GM. Or do you have more confidence in Aiden O'Connell? I want you to type AOC down below. I think it depends which way you talk about turning over the football. Because throughout their career, Aiden O'Connell's interception percentage is 2%, compared to Gardner Minshew's 1.7. Not that big of a difference. Aiden also was a rookie last season. So from the interception perspective, I do have more faith in Gardner to not turn over the ball. When it comes to fumbles, though, and this is the one thing that if Gardner doesn't clean up the fumbles, Aiden's got his fumbles problems on top of that. But we talk about all the time Derek Carr and the fumble problems he had. Remember Derek Carr's fumble problems? That's Gardner Minshew's fumble problems. They are right there, neck and neck, both bad. I think if they can clean it up, it's a solid thing. But based off of what Getsy said alone, I still have more confidence in Gardner Minshew, but I do think that Aiden probably protects the football better this season, specifically from an interception standpoint. One of the other notes that I thought was probably the most important from our special teams coordinator, Tom McMahon, again, he spoke. And, dude, if you haven't seen McMahon's, speech, he left the podium, I'm not shitting y'all, 3 or 4 times to go teach up the media of, the different rules, and he talks a lot about what they're planning on doing with these new kickoff rules. He did say, though, that he loves DJ Turner. DJ Turner is not a player that I think makes this 53-man roster, but we see it time and time again that there are guys that find ways to make this team. A lot of times it's through special teams. Could Turner be one of those dudes? Also, McMahon bringing that energy, I loved it, dude. It was cool because I was not thrilled when the Raiders hired him last season. But, the way that they are constructing practice, I love it because they're letting Daniel Carlson, the players, really weigh in on a lot of these new kickoff rules. And I am extremely curious to see what the Raiders decide to do for these new kickoff rules. So, again, Patrick Graham, McMahon gave me some good teacher vibes where Getsy's answers were a lot of words. I don't want to say this because I know people are going to blow it out of proportion just because of everyone knows how I feel about Josh McDaniels. But when you listen to the way Patrick Graham and McMahon talked, they talked kind of the same way when I get that vibe from Antonio Pierce. When they're talking, I listen, and I feel like I'm learning something, where when Getsy was talking, it just seemed like a lot of words, and I had a little bit of, Josh McDaniels deja vu of, man, I don't really know what you're saying. You're saying a lot, but you're not really saying anything to me. Patrick Graham, McMahon, hell of a job. Luke Getsy did some good. Not so great in this press conference. Overall, though, from what I understood, very, very good first day here at practice for the Las Vegas Raiders at OTAs.